Hi, I'm Mauricio Schiller and you're listening to The Schillering Hub, a podcast gathering hospitality professionals from around the world to talk about what hospitality is and what it isn't, and their lives, the innovations, and the ideas that set some businesses apart and others not. We also talk about the future, the trends, and recently we embarked on a journey to search for happiness in hospitality. What makes hospitality a happy place? What are the hurdles that block happiness from happening? And what can we do to overcome them? I invite you to be part of this journey. We make this for you, so I hope you enjoy it.
So I thought, how can we make it transparent to travel more sustainable friendly? How can we kind of get a bit kind of a structure into this whole label jungle of more than 150 labels, so that even if you want to travel sustainable friendly, it's like really hard to do. So I've really had the passion of giving the agency back to travelers and make them the change maker to drive really a sustainable friendly hospitality world.
This is Lilith Diringer from ChargeHolidays, an American startup promising to help travelers to plan their trips more sustainably. After feeling frustrated with how hotels portray their sustainable actions, Lilith and her business partner Jerome decided to list categories that help travelers make better sustainable choices during their holidays.
Additionally, I think it's a good way to structure your sustainable steps a bit. So, for instance, one thing we created is a travel education initiative where we designed a whole booklet. We call it the Sustainable Travel Detective Club. It's not only for children and teens, even though we have cute mascots in there, but I think it can also educate adults as well. And in this booklet, we guide you through like your whole stay. So starting with how did you arrive here, up to what rooms are you now discovering in the hotel? Are you going to a restaurant? So maybe you can look at the menu. Do they include where does food come from? Do they have vegan options? Do they include CO2 emissions? We also link to a CO2 calculator where you can type in your own food, what you ate, and then find out the CO2 emissions. So you can be aware and maybe be like, oh, actually, I like those two dishes the same, so why don't I just pick the more sustainable friendly one?
Besides discussing the platform, we engaged in learning more about sustainable travel. What's effective and what's not working, as well as how travelers can make a positive impact in the communities they visit. I'm super excited to bring this episode filled with young energy and dreams. In the question box today, please answer, what do you do to travel more sustainably? Enjoy and learn more with Schillering today. Hello, Schiller, and welcome to another episode of the Schillering Hub podcast talking hospitality. And today we are talking sustainability. And for that, we invite the ChargeHolidays, and I have Lilith and Jerome to talk to us today. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Hi, doing good.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I really want to learn more about ChargeHolidays, but also about you guys. And you are so young, and you have such a good energy, bringing some new ideas to the market, to the travel market. And I want to get into what inspired you to build your company and how's it going so far. So let's start with the human part that always comes first in our community here. So who are you guys? Jerome or Lilith? Who starts?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jerome. I'm a computer science student with this project since 2022. Yeah, I'm doing all the IT work and doing some digital marketing as well.
I'm Lilith. I kind of started the whole project with the first idea arising in 2019. I'm myself a public policy and originally international relations student. So a lot of traveling definitely in that field as well. So it's really important to me to design it and make it sustainable friendly.
And I was doing some research before more about Lilith because we started the conversation before and we have a chat before. And I know that I learned that you are into arts as well, isn't it? How is that in your life?
Yes, so I'm a jazz musician. I'm just about to graduate and finalize my degree. And also we are together circus artists. So another field that definitely as a musician, as a performer, you definitely want to travel and you need to travel. And that's also another reason why we want to make it sustainable friendly.
Cool. And if you could, in 60 seconds, introduce ChargeHolidays, how would you pitch to me?
Yeah, so ChargeHolidays is a sustainable travel platform where you can plan your trips. You can we rank all the hotels by sustainability criteria. So we divide up sustainability into 7 criteria so that you can, as a traveler, easily see which hotel is sustainable, which isn't, and which matches my sustainability profile. Yeah, and you can book via our platform, you can plan your trips, you can invite others to share within the trip so that you don't have all the annoying phone calls, emails, and 10,000 Google Docs and Excel sheets. Yeah.
Yeah, then we have like some additional feature like tracking your CO2, offsetting, what I think we are going to talk about a bit later as well, and everything that makes it as comfortable as possible to really plan your trip in a sustainable, friendly way.
And why did you guys start ChargeHolidays?
So initially, the idea started in 2019. I participated in a lot of competitions when I was still at school, and then I was kind of like put in hostels and hotels without me deciding it. And then I started to ask all of those questions around to the hotel staff mainly, and being like, okay, where does your food come from? I see you have a lot of vegan offers. Why? How much water do you need? Is there any renewable energy that you use? So all of these things that I didn't see transparently in the hotel. And then I also saw like huge discrepancy. So some hotels that were so inspiring and had so many things in a sustainable, friendly way. And then other hotels where I thought like, oh, it could be so easy to make it better. But they just were stuck in this kind of like traditional way of doing things without really including sustainability at all. So it was really interesting to see. And then I talked with a lot of friends and people who traveled for work, people who love travel in their free time. And a lot just didn't really see all of those aspects that I just like had in my mind and asked the questions. So I thought, how can we make it transparent to travel more sustainable friendly? How can we kind of get a bit kind of a structure into this whole label jungle of more than 150 labels, so that even if you want to travel sustainable friendly, it's like really hard to do. So I really had the passion of giving the agency back to travelers and make them the change maker to drive really a sustainable friendly hospitality world.
That's awesome. And then how does it work actually on the application side? So how does it work for the hotel? How does it work for the traveler?
Yeah, so let's start on the hotel side. There are a couple different ways that hotel can integrate with us. For one, we integrate with channel managers or intermediates between the hotels and booking engines such as Booking.com, Expedia, and us. So double booking doesn't happen is the main reason for that, and that they only have to enter all the information once. If they don't have a channel manager or have a channel manager that we don't support, they can register their hotel on our website, fill in all the information there. And then if they have like a sustainability certificate, they can add that to their profile. We currently have around 6,000 or 7,000 hotels that are coming in via these certificates.
Yeah, and in total, up to now we have 10,000 accommodations, are of course open and happy to increase it. And everybody that has not a sustainable certificate, we still invite them to join, because that's something we notice in the industry, that a lot of like bigger hotels, chains, they can afford a certificate that requires a lot of money and a lot of human workforce behind. But some smallers may not, and we want to incentivize that they are also behaving sustainable friendly and can show what they are doing to the travelers. So we have a sustainability check that they can fill in, they can give us the information, and then we can display them and advertise what they're doing in a sustainable friendly way, as well as encourage them at the same time to improve and to see, oh, maybe in this category we're not that good yet, so maybe we can improve there.
That's great. That's awesome. It's a beautiful mission that you guys have. So very glad to have you here sharing all these plans and your advancement. And we've been talking a little bit, and you repeat a few times about sustainable travel. And some people there may be thinking, what is sustainable travel? So how would you explain that?
Yeah, so like sustainable travel is not one thing. It's a conglomerate of many different smaller things, because you can always be like, oh yeah, this time I really didn't look on like my CO2 emissions, but I engaged in community work. I engaged, the local community. I didn't use as much water. I didn't use as much electricity. That's still sustainable, just a different kind. And I think that when you hear sustainable travel, most people are still thinking about like carbon emissions right now. And this is a big point, especially with like the climate crisis right now. But yeah, there's different aspects to this, and that's why we have our sustainability check, which divides stuff into 7 categories.
Yeah, we also call it a dream catcher, so you can see like in the different categories how well an accommodation is doing, and that also gives you as a traveler some ideas on what to look for and maybe also what questions to ask when you are there, but also where you can contribute. So if you're seeing like social sustainability, you can think about, okay, what can I contribute to make this a nice workplace for the people that are living there, or to support maybe other travelers who have disabilities, and how can I also facilitate that? And I also want to add, there is not a black and white and being like, this is sustainable travel and this is not. But there are like all different kinds of, like you can say this part of my trip was really sustainable friendly, the other one was not. And I always encourage people to not be like, I screwed up already, like I already took a plane, so it doesn't matter at all. Yes, it matters, because you can still support the environment with like you can still support the environment with a lot of tiny steps, being like, again, as you mentioned, maybe reducing your water that you need, maybe packing your food waste instead of like throwing it away, or trying to challenge you eating vegan for some time and get some inspirations. I also want to mention that sustainable travel doesn't mean that you travel in a boring way or that you travel in an uncomfortable way. There are many ways that you can discover new things and you can have a really great trip, maybe even better if you just challenge yourself to try out some of those sustainable hints and ideas.
So let's try to educate our audience, because our goal is always to educate. We want people to improve, we want people to evolve. So how can I travel more sustainable?
Yeah, so just at the very beginning, if you're in Europe, for example, you don't have to take the plane from Paris to Berlin. Just take the train, and you can just start there. Our app does help with that, where we have like the approximate CO2 values for each travel option for that distance. And I feel like, especially here in the US, people think, I'm just going to take the car that's way more efficient than the plane. It's about the same on the carbon footprint side. So it doesn't really help. I think that's the first part. Then the second part is, of course, your accommodation, where you have to look at, okay, do I really need to stay at the 5-star Marriott downtown, or do I just go for a smaller hostel-ish accommodation, because I don't really need the 5 stars because I'm going to be at the convention anyway.
Additionally, I think it's a good way to structure your sustainable steps a bit. So for instance, one thing we created is a travel education initiative where we designed a whole booklet. We call it the Sustainable Travel Detective Club. It's not only for children and teens, even though we have cute mascots in there, but I think it can also educate adults as well. And in this booklet, we guide you through like your whole stay. So starting with how did you arrive here, up to what rooms are you now discovering in the hotel? Are you going to a restaurant? So maybe you can look at the menu. Do they include where does food come from? Do they have vegan options? Do they include CO2 emissions? We also link to a CO2 calculator where you can type in your own food, what you ate, and then find out the CO2 emissions. So you can be aware and maybe be like, actually, I like those 2 dishes the same, so why don't I just pick the more sustainable friendly one? And then also just regarding the more sustainable steps, whatever you buy or purchase where you are, or whatever kind of like tour you plan there or activity, there's a lot you can make more sustainable friendly. It's really important to look into how local those organizations are, or those store and products that you buy are, because in the travel industry, a huge difficulty is that on the one side, the economy that is kind of like based on the travel industry is huge and it's important, especially for least developed countries, especially for small island states. And it's really important that they get tourists. But at the backside, it's not really helpful if then just huge international corporations take all the win and all the gain, and the local community doesn't benefit at all, but only gets like the waste that you leave there, or just has less water and electricity because you're using it. So it's really important to try to get in touch with the local community. Maybe one last aspect, because I don't want to overwhelm you, and again, it's great if you start small, if you start with like some of those steps. You don't have to like be the perfect sustainable traveler. But one last step that I want to mention, inform yourself before you go there. I honestly noticed then when I wanted to travel to another country, I found like millions of articles from like a German person or a US person traveling to another place, but not really from a native. What we also created is the Native Narrative project. So it's a whole blog series where natives write about their country, about their culture, and tell like where to go, what food to taste, and what to respect when you come to the country. Because that's the most important. You are a guest there. So you should also assimilate in a way, and you should be informed in an authentic way. So definitely get in touch with locals and try to find out and prepare yourself.
Now, I love, like, I took some notes here, so I'll try to backward a little bit what you guys said. I love the way that you kind of make that adventure of traveling more sustainable as a game. So you can actually look for the opportunities where I can get a little bit more sustainable, where maybe I don't have that opportunity to travel because I need to cross the ocean, but I can help by what I'm choosing to eat. But there was one point there that I'm quite curious, because when you say with the 5-star properties versus the smaller properties, and what normally happens is like the 5-star properties are getting that push and that pressure from their guests to become more sustainable. So they have projects, they have a sustainable manager, they have an agent that doing what they can. Sometimes it's green talk, but they are trying to do their best. Okay, I'll retrieve the best, but they are trying to do something to make that journey more sustainable for their guests. And maybe smaller properties in the other side, they are smaller, they have less impact. However, they maybe don't have the time and energy to measure what the impact is in nature. So how would you actually make an informed decision to go into a luxurious property that actually may be doing some good work and work with the community, and a smaller property that may be just catching and using the environment in their way, and we can then track that?
It's really complex. You already kind of outlined that. And that's exactly what we try to improve and make easier to understand. So that's why we bring this transparency with the Dreamcatcher, so that you don't only see like this has a green leaf and you're like, okay, what does it mean? Or this has like a yellow star from a certificate name that I cannot even pronounce, and you have no idea what it is. So we really go into like the different aspects of sustainable travel in the 7 categories, as Jerome mentioned, and then you can find out what questions were answered in what way, so you can see in which aspects the hotel is behaving how nicely, because maybe sometimes something is more important to you. If you're a vegan, then the food kind of category may be more important to you than if you're like an e-vehicle owner, and mobility is maybe the most important to you. So that's like something you should really not only trust in a way the labels and be like, oh yeah, okay, I choose this one, but go really deeper. And also sometimes on the homepage you can find some information. Sometimes it's even worth calling and asking them. On the one hand, that way you get more information. On the other hand, if 500-600 people are calling and asking those questions, or are staying at the hostel or hotel and ask those questions, they get an incentive to improve, and they notice like, oh, that seems to be something important to my guests. So it's definitely worth that. I just encourage everybody. It's like some minutes maybe during your stay or before to just get those information and just to incentivize others to be a change. And that's how you can be a change maker too. And then another aspect is definitely, we just went to like a small farm and talked a lot about sustainability and how to measure it. And I think one example that fits you really well was their building doesn't have an AC that can be certified as like a really great energy efficient AC. This building doesn't use new wood, so that cannot be certified as like a sustainable wood that was used or local wood. but they used like recycling stuff and they used things that was on the trash. So it's not always easy to show the most sustainable and most like nature-bound way of operating and managing something. And that's definitely something we all have to keep in mind, that not everything that just gets a certificate is the most sustainable way.
Yeah, no, that's great answer. Thanks for that, Lilith. And there is like a lot of controversy about carbon offsetting, right? And measuring it. So a lot of people that don't believe that it was really effective because there are so many other things related to it. So measuring your carbon footprint, is it, in your opinion, is it effective?
So yeah, hard topic. But yeah, it's one of the easiest ways to quantify your impact, especially if you're like traveling. There are a lot of different factors impacting it, yes, but carbon is the one that's the most easy to track. It has the most impact on our environment right now. Of course, social sustainability and education, everything like that, that's important. But we do have to start with the smallest quantifiable thing that we can grab onto. And then if we have more information, that's always great. But you have to have a baseline that you start with, especially for travel where you don't really have a lot of decent information.
Definitely, it's a problem if you make it too complex for somebody, because then immediately they feel overwhelmed, they shut down, they are like, I just want to enjoy my holiday, I just want to chill out, I want to relax. That's too much for my brain. So it's definitely a measure that can help, and it's not like just the measure of the CO2 emissions, but it's CO2 equivalent. So a lot of things are recalculated into kind of like this equivalent. So it doesn't mean that this is like the only gas emission that is measured. And then at the same time, I think it's really important to not only like measure it and then be like, oh, I have the sum and now I pay money for it and I offset it and I'm happy again, because that's unfortunately, or maybe also fortunately, not how our world and the natural system works. So we definitely, with giving transparency and giving those hints what to do, we like our first incentive is to minimize those emissions and to contribute as much as possible in a positive way. And then if you have like minimized it, there's like little chance that you will get to zero when you decide to travel at all. So there will still be something left, and it's great to just contribute, to not really offset it and be like really happy again, but still to kind of give a contribution. So for instance, we cooperate with My Climate. They have different organizations that are working with locals, for instance in Kenya, building sustainable ways of cooking, building solar systems, etc. So these are all contributions, projects that would not happen if they are not funded. So they definitely add a contribution, and that's way something positive can be done. But I'm really not advocating to be like, okay, you can completely offset your whatever you've done. So minimize it and then donate for a nice contribution that will help our environment and our society.
And I like your question and your answer, and I like, Jerome, the way that you put in an engineering terms, because basically we need to start by measuring so we can assess if it works or not. But if we don't measure it, in anyone out there it starts to measure that, we cannot actually improve anything because we don't know what we're improving from. So that's the way that I see. We had a very nice chat about 2 years ago, I think, with Claudia from Green Key, and she explained all the ways that hotels and tourism and small properties can start by measuring the impact, and then customers can do that too. And you mentioned also in the lesson, you were brief about how the community and how you help actually to inform more about the native things that the people that can offer to tourists. So how can I make actually a positive impact as a guest in the communities that I visit?
Yeah, it's definitely not that we can think, oh, you are like the holy person who comes here and brings some joy, because that would be like a really difficult way of phrasing the tourism as it is. On the same hand, tourism and traveling really has huge contribution for international peace, for understanding cultures. That said, it doesn't mean that traveling automatically improves your understanding of culture. It can even enhance stereotypes if it's done like in a really bad way, and if you only go like to mass tourism places where everything is kind of like built for the tourists and not really giving you the local lens. So you should always be critical about that. And as I said, it's great to inform yourself before. It's great to stay in touch in the long term. Maybe you make some friends. You get really in touch with the locals. Additionally, it definitely helps, as I already mentioned, to purchase something locally, to contribute to local small businesses as well to support their economy. And it's like, honestly, in those, for instance, in these developed countries, up to 20% of their GDP is dependent on the travel industry. So they really want that you come, but again, they want you to not destroy the environment, but to interact with them, to understand them, to hopefully take something with you and reduce your stereotypes that you have, and be open-minded for also when maybe one day they are able to visit you. And I always think it's important to see that traveling is a privilege. A huge part of our population worldwide never get the chance to travel, to really see it as a privilege and understand what you can contribute to it.
Yeah. We had a very cool chat with Samira Homa about sustainability, but about destination marketing, because in the end of the day, it's not only the hotels, not only the guests, but the destination itself should work with the communities to offer and to measure and to create that protection of not getting over tourism and helping them to charge the right price so they don't have to have a mass tourism in the place to make their living. Yeah? So it was super cool. I would suggest everyone there to have a listen to that podcast as well after you finish ours here. But if we could think about the future, we like here to dream a little bit and see what we can achieve, okay? But dreaming about the future now is really complex because things move so fast. But what is your vision of the future of sustainable travel?
Yeah, I would think that, like, in general, I would think just more knowledge in the field would be a great start. And then as we go on, building knowledge in the field, building knowledge on the hotel side, building knowledge on the traveler side, and making it easy to make a sustainable choice. Because right now, it's the unsustainable choice is the easier one, the more comfortable one, and we want to change that.
Definitely. As soon as the default option becomes the sustainable friendly one, as soon as this becomes like the hippest, the funnest, the best you can choose, this is where people will go to. And at the same time, I think to get there, it's really important to make clear that, again, becoming more sustainable friendly for a hostel or hotel doesn't mean to only waste your money. No, it can be a long time investment and can bring joy to yourself, to your employees, to the guests as well. And for the guests, that it doesn't mean that you, again, travel in a boring way, but it can mean that you discover new things and you can have a lot of joy and fun. And also for, like, I would say the bigger picture, I hope that travel can really be understood as a segue into sustainable consciousness. Because travel is something and become aware of it, and you can really understand how you can be a change maker. Whereas when you go in a grocery store, that may be harder. And even if you ask the people there where the strawberries come from, again, as I said, when you look for those sustainable cues, if you engage with people, if you ask them, you can really be the change maker, and you can understand so many things and get inspired by so many things and projects and best practices that you can even take them back home with you and become more sustainable friendly in your daily life. So I really hope that the travel industry can be identified as an important segue, not only for becoming more sustainable friendly itself, but for sparking this idea and giving like a lot of inspiration for a more sustainable world overall.
And if I would ask, what success looks like for you with ChargeHolidays?
So definitely getting many more accommodations interested in the project and getting them inspired, learning from each other. So I really kind of, my vision would be to have like a better and closer network among those hotels and hostels that they can easily learn from each other and from their best practices, as well as having a lot of groups and individuals using the app and making it comfortable to travel sustainable friendly in that way.
Why is the network important to you?
I think we can learn so much from each other, and even though one fit doesn't work for everybody because the hotels are in different geographic locations, they work differently, even though there are so many lessons learned and not everybody has to start at zero, but when we exchange, we can already build on the knowledge of others and experience of others. And I think this is really critical for also advancing faster. And at the same time, it gives you people to exchange if you have like fallbacks or you feel demotivated or overwhelmed. It gives you a community to discuss and to ask and to create solutions together.
Yeah, we talked with so many hotels that had great ideas. One had a sustainable beer cooling system. The other one had a very sustainable building. And I feel like a lot of this is just lost for the bigger hotel community just because they're very encapsulated in their local hospitality organizations.
Yeah, no, I really like that, the way that you are thinking about community. We are all about community here as well. So if I would ask in a scale 1 to 10, where are you now from where you want to be?
Yeah, hard. I'd say somewhere along 3 to 4. The knowledge isn't out there. We definitely want to change that. The platform itself is a very niche project right now. Yeah, and we want to move that more into the mainstream. Yeah.
I definitely also go for like around 3 just because I see so huge potential in the industry and I see how little it is used right now. What is really sad, but still I'm hopeful that we get to the 10 and hopefully faster than we think.
That's awesome. If we could do a little exercise, right? So visualize that you are there already. You are in your vision of success. But now, what steps did you take to move from 3 to 10?
Reach out to hotels. Like the problem as a platform is you always have like the chicken and egg problem. You need users, you need hotels. But I feel like on the hotel side, there's so much more that can be done right now. Especially here in the US, every time we're at a hotel, they have their single-use dishware everywhere, and I'm like, that's not good. Yeah, but yeah, reach out to hotels, build knowledge there, and then I feel users will come as long as there is a good source of hotels. Yeah.
I'd add that really the interdisciplinary work is important and just to include all stakeholders. I think that incentives need to come from every corner. So one way is definitely educating more, increasing our travel detective projects to really make the people the change makers, plus reaching out to governments as well. You talked about local destinations. Yes, those governments have an enormous impact if they create funds, if they have like incentives for accommodations and for operators to become more sustainable friendly. That's huge. If governments come up with legal requirements that you have to pay fines if you are producing too much waste, etc., that's huge. So we definitely have like a lot of different stakeholders that we are reaching out at the moment and want to continue doing that so that we can really create a systems change that is sustainable and not just like changing something of the symptoms, but more being like we really want to get to the root cause, involving all of those different stakeholders that have an influence.
Guys, it was awesome to talk to you. You guys have like such a great energy, like that youth that we need to bring change and to light up that new ideas that hotels need to adopt. We all need it. I'm being emotional for last month because in Brazil we had horrible floods that caused by the climate change, and it's more than time that the industry embrace and we start to provide this change. So I'm inviting you, everyone that are listening and watching on YouTube, please get in touch to these guys and let's help each other. Let's build that community that will actually help to save their world, my daughter's world, and everyone's moving to the future. So if our community wants to get in touch with you, how they do that?
Yeah, we've got an Instagram channel, we've got a TikTok channel. That's where you can reach out. You can always go to our website, ChargeHolidays.com, download the app, give feedback. I'm the lead engineer, so just, I think my email's on the website. Otherwise, it's Jeroen@ChargeHoldiays.com. Or the contact ad works fine. If you have like any requests on feature sets or bug reports, feel free to send them to me. I'll try to work them in as soon as possible.
Yeah, and the app is available, and you can download it to your phone or device that you wish. Just type in ChargeHolidays wherever you're in the App Store or Google Play Store and download it. And yeah, as we said, we are open to feedback and feature requests, whatever. Check out our blog. There are a lot of nice articles about how to travel more sustainable friendly, how to attend a festival more sustainable friendly. So a lot of actionable items that we share with you.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for your energy. Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. And I hope that we can get you guys also in our Schillering community, so explaining and teaching more of our industry how we can do better with sustainable travel. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Schillering, I see you next time. Bye.